They posted it at 11:47 p.m. Not because that's when it happened. No, because that's when they calculated you'd be awake, alone, scrolling, vulnerable to the algorithm delivering their carefully staged victory directly into your bleeding chest. The photo was perfect. The angle, the lighting, the casually draped arm around the new person. The smile that screamed, "I'm thriving," to anyone who wasn't paying attention. And underneath it all, a caption so deliberately vague, so surgically crafted, that it could only mean one thing. This was for you. Every pixel, every filter, every word chosen and unchosen. This entire performance, this digital theater, this monument to their new happiness, it was built on a foundation of your expected tears. They hit post, and then they waited. Refresh, 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 refresh. The likes started rolling in. The comments flooded with heart emojis, and "you deserve this," and "finally seeing you happy." And through all of it, through every notification, they were scanning for one name, one view, one sign that you saw, that you felt it. That somewhere across the city, or the country, or the world, you were watching them win, and it was destroying you. That was the plan. That was always the plan. They didn't move on. They didn't heal. They didn't grow. They just found a new stage and performed harder, louder, more desperately than ever before. And every single act, every scene in this theatrical production of their supposed happiness had one intended audience member. You, the person they needed to witness their resurrection. The person whose pain would validate their joy. The person who was supposed to be sitting in the front row of this show, sobbing into their hands while the curtain rose on a life that deliberately excluded them. But here's where the story takes a turn they didn't write. Here's where the script they memorized starts to fall apart. Here's where the spotlight they positioned so carefully begins to illuminate an uncomfortable truth. The seat they saved for you, it's empty. 3 days pass. They've checked their views 17 times. 18. 23. They've memorized the list of names, scrolled through every single person who watched their story, analyzed the timestamps, calculated the patterns. You're not there. Must be a glitch. Must be a setting. Must be some technical failure that prevented their masterpiece from reaching its intended target. So they post again. Different angle, different caption, same desperation wearing a different dress. This time it's a sunset, golden hour, main character energy, living my best life. The kind of content that says I'm so unbothered while screaming, "Please God, let them see this. Please let them be suffering. Please let my happiness hurt them." Refresh, 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 refresh. 57 likes, 42 comments, 12 shares, 0 you. They check your profile, still exists. Still active. You posted something 2 days ago. A coffee cup. A book. Nothing special. Nothing dramatic. No sad quotes or cryptic messages or evidence that you're falling apart without them. Just a Tuesday. You're living a Tuesday while they're orchestrating psychological warfare. You're having coffee while they're calculating algorithms. You're reading a book while they're refreshing a screen, hoping your name appears like a summoning spell that proves they still matter. And it doesn't. And you don't. And they don't understand. Week 2. The new relationship is public now. Official. Facebook status updated. Instagram grid curated. A whole campaign rollout for a connection that was supposed to be a nuclear bomb dropped directly on your piece. They went all in. Matching Halloween costumes. Brunch photos. Inside jokes. In captions that nobody asked for but everyone was forced to witness. A full exhibition of coupledom, so aggressive, so in your face, so relentlessly documented that it could only exist for one reason. You were supposed to be watching. You were supposed to be comparing. You were supposed to be lying in bed at midnight wondering if you were ever loved like that, if you were ever shown off like that, if you were ever enough. But the analytics don't lie. And the analytics say you haven't viewed a single story in 14 days. The analytics say you haven't liked a single post in 3 weeks. The analytics say you exist somewhere in the digital universe, breathing and living and existing, but not in any orbit that includes them. They start checking mutual friends. Did you see what they posted? Have you mentioned anything? Is there any evidence, any whisper, any second-hand confirmation that their performance is being received by its intended audience? Nothing. Your name doesn't come up. What? Not in conversations, not in comments, not in the gossip circles that used to revolve around your shared history. It's like you've stepped into another dimension. One where they don't exist. One where their carefully constructed highlight reel plays to an empty theater. One where all the effort, all the staging, all the emotional manipulation disguised as just living my life means absolutely nothing. Because you're not in the audience. You left the building. You left the building? Hell. You forgot there was ever a show. Month 1. Something is starting to crack. The posts are becoming more frequent now, more desperate. The happiness is getting louder, which is always what happiness does when it's performed instead of felt. They're adding more exclamation points, more emojis, more evidence of a joy that requires constant documentation to feel real. Best boyfriend ever. I can't believe this is my life. Everything happens for a reason, and through every single post, through every aggressive declaration of contentment, there's a question they can't stop asking. Why aren't you watching? Why aren't you reacting? Why aren't you doing what you were supposed to do? They had a whole script written for you. You were supposed to spiral. You were supposed to send a long text at 2 a.m. asking what went wrong. You were supposed to show up looking worse, acting desperate, proving that losing them was a wound you couldn't recover from. That was the movie playing in their head. That was the ending. They directed. But you went off script. You didn't just go off script. You left the production entirely. Walked out of the theater, got in your car, drove to a different city, built a different life, and never once looked back to see if the show was still running. Because it doesn't matter to you. They don't matter to you. And that realization, that slow dawning horror, is starting to eat them alive. They start testing theories. Maybe you blocked them. That's it. That's why you're not seeing anything. That's why your name never appears. You must have blocked them, which means you care, which means it's working, which means the performance isn't pointless. They check from a friend's phone. You didn't block them. You just don't look. You have full access to their entire exhibition of happiness, and you simply choose not to attend. You could see everything with one tap. Every photo, every caption, Every desperate cry for your attention disguised as confidence. It's all right there, unlocked, available, waiting. And you don't care enough to click. That's worse. That's so much worse than blocking. Blocking is anger. Blocking is hurt. Blocking is I can't handle seeing you, so I'm protecting myself. Blocking is evidence that they still have real estate in your head, that they still affect you, that they still matter enough to require digital walls. But not looking? Not looking is indifference. Not looking is forgetting. Not looking is a casual dismissal so complete that it doesn't require action. You didn't build a wall. You just walked so far away that there's nothing to see from where you're standing. They could be posting the greatest life ever lived. They could be documenting the most perfect relationship in human history. They could be winning in every measurable way. And you wouldn't know, because you're not checking, because you don't care, because they have become background noise in a life that moved on without ceremony, without announcement, without even the dignity of a dramatic exit. You just left. Quietly, completely, permanently. Month 3. The new relationship is getting tense. Not because of any external pressure, not because of any real problem, but because they keep doing something. Their partner is starting to notice. They keep checking. At dinner, they check. In bed at night, they check. During movies, during walks, during moments that are supposed to be about connection, they're scrolling through view lists looking for a name that never appears. Who are you looking for? The question lands like an accusation. Because it is one. Because their new partner has noticed that they're physically present, but mentally auditing an audience. They can't stop counting. Nobody. But it's not nobody. It's you. It's always been you. Every post was for you. Every photo was for you. Every public display of affection was a letter sent to an address you don't live at anymore. They've been performing for a ghost, competing with a memory, trying to beat someone who stopped playing the game so long ago that they forgot the rules ever existed. And now the person who was supposed to be their victory lap is starting to feel like a consolation prize. Because no amount of I love you can fill the silence where your jealousy was supposed to live. No amount of new memories can compete with the validation they needed from your pain. They wanted to win. But you can't win a competition the other person doesn't know is happening. Month 6. They broke up. The new relationship ended. Not with a bang, but with a slow deflation of a balloon that was never filled with real air. It was built on a foundation of performance, and performances need audiences to survive. You were supposed to be the audience. You were supposed to be watching. You were supposed to be suffering. And when you didn't, there was nothing holding it together. They're alone now, scrolling through their own highlight reel, looking at photos that were supposed to be weapons, and seeing them for what they always were. Cries for help, disguised as confidence, begging disguised as bragging, desperation wearing a filter and calling itself happiness. They finally click on your profile. For the first time in months, they actually look at your life instead of hoping you'd look at theirs. And what do they see? Nothing dramatic, nothing designed for them. No revenge body, no obvious upgrade, no evidence of either suffering or theatrical joy. Just a life. That's a real one. Photos with friends they don't recognize. Trips to places they weren't consulted about. A job update they didn't see coming. A smile that isn't performing for anyone. You look peaceful. Not happy to make them jealous, peaceful. Just peaceful. The kind of peace that comes from forgetting instead of forgiving. The kind of peace that doesn't know it's peaceful because it's not being compared to anything. The kind of peace that exists because they simply don't exist in your universe anymore. And that's when it hits them. That's when the full weight of reality comes crashing down. You weren't ignoring them. Ignoring requires awareness. You weren't choosing not to watch. Choosing requires consideration. You weren't even avoiding their posts on purpose. Avoiding requires effort. You just moved on. Completely. Genuinely. Are here de voir. Totally. In a way that didn't require announcements or affirmations or any evidence at all. You moved on so thoroughly that they became one of a million things you don't think about. Somewhere between a middle school teacher's name and the lyrics to a song you haven't heard in years. Not important enough to remember. Not painful enough to forget on purpose. Just gone. Erased from relevance. Deleted from the story you're writing now. This is the part they never prepared for. They prepared for your anger. They had responses ready for angry texts, for public call-outs, for dramatic confrontations that would prove the connection still lived. They prepared for your sadness. They expected crying, begging, desperate attempts to reconcile that would stroke their ego and confirm their importance. They even prepared for your hatred. Hate is intimate. Hate is personal. Hate means you care enough to burn energy on them, but they never prepared for nothing. They never prepared for absence. They never prepared for a silence so complete that it doesn't echo. They never prepared for the possibility that they could do everything right. Post the perfect photos, stage the perfect life, perform the perfect happiness, and still lose. Not because you countered their move, not because you played a better game, but because you stopped playing entirely. You left the chessboard. You walked out of the arena. You walked out of the arena. You closed the app of their existence and opened something better, and they're still there. Sitting across from an empty chair, making moves against nobody, winning a game that doesn't exist anymore. Here's the truth. They'll never accept. Your absence isn't a strategy. You're not doing this to hurt them. You're not playing a longer game. You're not secretly watching from a burner account, delighting in their desperation. You're just not there. That's it. That's the whole story. You're not in the audience because there are better things to do with your life than watch someone perform their healing. You're not watching them win because you're too busy winning something they can't see. You're not checking their posts because your phone is filled with people and moments that actually matter. They keep looking for you in the crowd. But you left the stadium. You're not even in the same city anymore. You're not even playing the same sport. And now comes the collapse. Not the public kind. They won't break down where anyone can see. They've learned too well how to perform stability. The collapse happens internally, at 3 a.m. when there's no one to impress, in the shower where the notifications can't reach, in the quiet moments between posts when they have to sit with the person they've become, someone who won a trophy and had no one to show it to, someone who built a stage and perform to empty seats. Someone who screamed, "Look at me," into a void that didn't care enough to look back. The victory they wanted tastes like ash now, because a victory needs a witness. A win needs a loser, and you refuse to lose. Not by winning, not by competing, not by playing at all. You just walked away, and kept walking, and never stopped. Somewhere right now, they're checking again. Refresh, 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 refresh. Looking for your name in a list where it will never appear. Waiting for a reaction that will never come. Hoping that somewhere, somehow, you're watching them shine. But you're not. But you're not. You're living. You're breathing. You're existing in a reality where they don't matter. And that's not cruelty. That's not strategy. That's not revenge. That's just what moving on looks like. Real moving on. The kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that doesn't need an audience. The kind that simply walks away and keeps walking until the past becomes a dot on a horizon you're not even facing anymore. They keep checking if you're watching them win, but you're not in the audience. You forgot there was ever a show, and that forgetting, that genuine, complete, irreversible forgetting, that's the only ending they never saw coming. That's the plot twist they can't rewrite. That's the collapse they'll never recover from. Because you can survive someone's hate. You can survive someone's anger. You can even survive someone's revenge. But you cannot survive becoming irrelevant. You cannot survive being forgotten. You cannot survive performing the greatest show of your life to a theater full of empty chairs.
You ever notice how, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, it never seems to be enough? You explain yourself, you defend yourself, you pour your heart out, and somehow you still end up misunderstood, ignored, or blamed. You sit there replaying every conversation in your head, wondering where you went wrong, wondering why they always twist your words, why they always find a way to make you look like the problem. And the truth is simple, even if it hurts to hear. You were never meant to win by talking. You were never meant to be heard by people who only listen when it benefits them. You've been wasting your breath. You've been handing out access to your mind like it's free. You've been explaining your pain to people who enjoy watching you bleed. And the more you speak, the more they learn how to push you, how to provoke you, how to control you. They study your reactions. They memorize your weaknesses. They wait for the moment you crack. And every time you do, every time you react, every time you raise your voice or lower your guard, they win. That's the part nobody warns you about. The louder you get, the smaller you become. The more you try to prove your point, the more power you hand over. Because people like that don't care about truth. They care about control. And words give them exactly what they need. An opening, a handle, a way in. You think silence is weakness. You think staying quiet means you lost. That's what they taught you. That's what they want you to believe. They want you emotional. They want you reactive. They want you explaining yourself like you're on trial. Because as long as you're talking, they're steering the conversation. As long as you're reacting, they're pulling the strings. But the moment you stop, everything shifts. The moment you don't respond the way they expect, something inside them tightens. They feel it immediately. That gap, that emptiness, that silence where your reaction should be. And it makes them uncomfortable because now they're not in control anymore. Now they're guessing. Now they're exposed. Silence removes their leverage. Silence takes away their fuel. Silence denies them the one thing they crave more than anything else, your attention. You see, people who manipulate, people who provoke, people who disrespect you, they don't do it because they're strong. They do it because they're starving for validation, starving for power, starving for a reaction that proves they matter. And you've been feeding them without even realizing it. Every explanation, every argument, every emotional response, you've been keeping them alive. Silence starves them. When you stop reacting, they start unraveling. They replay their own words. They question their own moves. They wonder if they went too far or not far enough. They start filling in the blanks you left behind, and those blanks are darker than anything you could ever say out loud. Silence forces them to confront themselves, and most people cannot survive that. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify your boundaries. Silence communicates something far more powerful. It says, you no longer have access. It says, you don't matter enough to get a response. It says, your words bounce off me now. That's control. Control isn't raising your voice. Control isn't winning an argument. Control is deciding who gets your energy and who gets nothing at all. And when you master that, when you truly understand it, you realize how much power you've been giving away your entire life. Think about it. The people who disturb you the most are the ones who feel entitled to your reaction. They expect you to answer. They expect you to defend yourself. They expect you to engage. And when you don't, when you deny them that expectation, it short-circuits them. They don't know what to do next. Their script falls apart. Silence breaks their rhythm. You become unpredictable, untouchable, unreachable. And that terrifies people who rely on control, because now they can't read you. They can't manipulate you. They can't anticipate your next move. They're left guessing, and in that uncertainty, they lose ground. You've probably noticed it already. The way people grow restless when you don't reply. The way they send follow-up messages. The way they escalate, provoke, or pretend they don't care while clearly caring more than ever. That's not confidence, that's desperation. Silence exposes it. And here's the part you need to understand. Silence isn't passive. Silence is active restraint. It's you choosing not to lower yourself. It's you refusing to play their game. It's you deciding that your peace matters more than proving a point. They want noise. You give them nothing. They want chaos. You give them calm. They want access. You give them distance. That imbalance drives them insane. Because now the power dynamic has flipped. You're no longer chasing clarity. They are. You're no longer explaining yourself. They're explaining their behavior in their own head, over and over without answers. Silence becomes a mirror. And most people hate what they see when they're forced to look. You don't owe anyone closure. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't owe anyone your emotional labor. Those are privileges, not obligations. And the moment you stop handing them out freely, people reveal who they really are. The ones who respect you will respect your silence. The ones who don't will try to punish you for it. Let that tell you everything you need to know. You've been conditioned to believe that being calm means you're losing, that walking away means you're weak, that staying quiet means you don't have a backbone. That's a lie designed to keep you accessible, available, controllable. Real strength doesn't announce itself. Real power doesn't argue. Real control doesn't beg to be understood. It withdraws. And when you withdraw correctly, when you do it without anger, without explanation, without drama, you become untouchable. You remove yourself from their reach. You take away their influence. You stop feeding the dynamic that kept you trapped. That's when they feel it. That cold realization, that shift they can't name. The moment they understand, they no longer matter to you the way they thought they did. Silence hits harder than words ever could. Words can be twisted, silence cannot. Words can be ignored, silence cannot. Words can be used against you, silence leaves nothing to grab. And the longer you hold it, the more powerful it becomes. They'll try to bait you. They'll try to provoke you. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of being cold, distant, heartless. That's not an insult. That's confirmation. It means the old version of you, the one they could control, is gone. Good. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them create stories to fill the space you left behind. None of it requires your response. None of it deserves your energy. Because silence doesn't just protect you. It reshapes the entire dynamic. It puts you above the noise, above the chaos, above the need to prove anything. You stop reacting. You start observing. And from that position, you see everything clearly. You see who was only there for access. You see who only valued you when you were useful. You see who panics when they can't reach you anymore. And you realize something important. You were never powerless. You were just too available. Silence fixes that. It reclaims your time, your focus, your authority. It turns you from a participant into a presence. And presence doesn't need to speak to be felt. That's why silence works. Not because it's empty, but because it's full of restraint, full of intention, full of control. And once you understand that, you stop explaining yourself forever. You stop chasing validation. You stop fighting battles that were never meant to be won with words. You let people reveal themselves while you remain untouched. They'll feel it, every unanswered message, every unacknowledged attempt, every moment they realize they no longer have access to you. That's control. So stay quiet, not out of fear, but out of dominance. Not because you have nothing to say, but because what you're holding back is more powerful than anything you could give them. Let your silence do the work. Let it unsettle them. Let it confuse them. Let it strip away their sense of control. And while they're busy drowning in the noise of their own thoughts, you walk forward, calm, unbothered, in control. Because silence isn't absence, it's authority. And once you master it, no one ever controls you again. And here's what nobody tells you once you start doing it. Once you choose silence, truly choose it, the world reacts. Not loudly at first, subtly. You'll feel it in the pauses, in the hesitation before they speak to you, in the way conversations change when you enter the room. Because silence alters how people perceive you. When you stop explaining yourself, people assume you know something they don't. When you stop reacting, they assume you're stronger than you look. When you stop engaging, they start watching. That's the moment control shifts completely. You're no longer operating on their terms. You're no longer responding to provocations. You're no longer trapped in emotional back and forth. You've stepped outside the game and now you're watching everyone else scramble inside it. Silence rewrites the hierarchy. People don't respect noise, they respect restraint. They don't fear shouting, they fear the person who stays calm when chaos is expected. Because calm suggests certainty, and certainty suggests power. Think about it. The person who loses control is always the one who loses first. The one who raises their voice, who over-explains, who reacts too quickly. They expose themselves, they show where it hurts, they reveal their pressure points. Silence hides all of that. Silence keeps your cards face down. And when people can't read you, they can't control you. They'll try, of course. They always do. They'll test your boundaries. They'll say things they know used to get under your skin. They'll bring up old wounds, old mistakes, old narratives they once used to keep you small. And this is where most people fail. They think silence means suppressing emotion. It doesn't. It means mastering it. You feel everything. You just don't hand it over. You don't flinch. You don't defend. You don't counterattack. You let the moment pass without giving them anything to work with. And that emptiness, that lack of response, hits harder than any argument ever could, because now they're exposed. They've shown their hand, and you've shown nothing. That imbalance is devastating. Silence turns their aggression inward. They start questioning themselves. Was that too much? Did I push too hard? Why didn't they react? Why didn't they care? And once that doubt sets in, it grows, it spreads, it poisons their confidence, all because you chose not to speak. You start to see it clearly. Most people rely on reactions to feel alive. They need friction. They need resistance. They need someone to push against. Silence denies them that reality. It leaves them alone with themselves. And most people are terrified of that. That's why they chase you when you go quiet. They'll call it closure. They'll call it concern. They'll call it wanting to talk things out. But it's not about resolution. It's about regaining access. They want back in. They want the dynamic restored. They want their influence back. And that's where your discipline is tested. Because silence only works if you don't break it. The moment you explain yourself again, the moment you justify your distance, the moment you reassure them, you hand control right back. You reopen the door you worked so hard to close, and they will walk through it without hesitation. Silence is not something you use once. It's something you become. It's a posture, a stance, a way of moving through the world without announcing your intentions, without leaking your thoughts, without advertising your emotions. And once you embody it, you notice something else. You start hearing more, seeing more, understanding more. Because when you stop talking, you start observing. You pick up on patterns, on motives, on inconsistencies. People never realized they were revealing. Silence sharpens perception. You realize how often people project their own fears onto you, how often they talk just to fill space, how often they reveal exactly who they are without realizing it. And the more silent you remain, the more they reveal. That's leverage, because control doesn't come from force. It comes from information. And silence collects information effortlessly. You don't interrupt, you don't correct, you don't argue. You let people talk themselves into corners. You let them contradict themselves. You let them expose their intentions. And all the while, you remain composed, unreadable, unaffected. That composure unsettles people. They'll mistake it for arrogance. They'll call it detachment. They'll accuse you of thinking you're better than them. That's their insecurity talking. That's their discomfort with not being able to reach you. Let them feel it. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to protect your peace. And peace requires distance from chaos. Silence creates that distance. It draws a line without needing to explain where it is. And here's the truth most people never accept. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your thoughts, your feelings, your inner world. Some people only want that access so they can exploit it, so they can weaponize it, so they can use it to keep you predictable. Silence makes you unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. When people don't know how you'll react, they hesitate. When they hesitate, they lose momentum. When they lose momentum, they lose control. All because you chose restraint over reaction. You'll notice it in their tone, in their body language, in the way they suddenly become cautious around you. The same people who once spoke freely now choose their words carefully. The same people who once dismissed you now watch you closely. They feel the shift, even if they can't name it. And that's when silence becomes more than a defense. It becomes influence. Without saying a word, you set the frame. Without explaining yourself, you command respect. Without reacting, you establish dominance. Not dominance through intimidation, but through self-control. And self-control is the highest form of power there is. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can argue. Anyone can react. Very few can remain calm when provoked. Very few can hold silence when emotions rise. And those few are the ones who always end up on top. Because they can't be baited. They can't be rushed. They can't be manipulated. Silence makes you immovable. And when people realize they can't move you, they adjust. They either respect you or they remove themselves. Both outcomes work in your favor. You stop wasting time on pointless conflicts. You stop burning energy on people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop engaging in cycles that go nowhere. Silence cuts through all of that. It simplifies your life. It clears your mind. It restores your sense of self. And slowly, quietly, it rebuilds your authority. You're no longer reacting to the world. The world reacts to you. That's control. So when they push, you pause. When they provoke, you observe. When they demand answers, you give them space. And when they finally realize they no longer have access to you, they feel the loss deeply, because access to you was never guaranteed. It was earned, and they squandered it. Silence reminds them of that. You don't need the last word. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need to prove you're right. You already won the moment you stopped playing. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them create stories to justify your absence. None of it changes the truth. The truth is simple. You chose control over chaos, discipline over emotion, silence over noise. And that choice changes everything. Because silence doesn't fade. It lingers. It echoes. It stays with people long after the conversation ends, long after the argument is forgotten, long after the words lose their meaning. Silence leaves a mark. And once you understand how to use it, once you understand when to hold it and when to release it, you become untouchable, not loud, not aggressive, not reactive, untouchable. So stay silent, stay composed, stay disciplined. Let your restraint speak for you. Let your absence do the damage. Let your silence control the room. Because when you stop giving people what they want, you start taking back everything they took from you. And that's how you win. Not by force, not by noise, but by silence.